So, hi, can you hear me? Yes. Okay, I don't know if I can sustain this level of speaking because I spend a lot of time talking at the store and then I spend a lot of time at home not talking except to the animals. A ready audience. So I'm Cheryl Denz and I have a farm in Appleton and I have a market, farm-based market mostly on South Main Street in Rockland. And I started the farm, or farming, on a very, very, very small scale. And it's the scale that I would encourage anyone, if you have the interest, whether it's tomatoes on your patio, or whether you have space for a pig or some chickens, to start out small, to give it a shot, because it's probably one of the most rewarding things that you can do for yourself and maybe your community. I started with one pig that we had over at my neighbor Joe's house, and Joe probably will come along a little later because, well, I didn't know anything about having pigs. There he is, hi. And so that was our adventure together. Joe had a pig, I had a pig, and we took turns feeding and taking care of the pigs. At one point, I remember quite vividly sitting out in lawn chairs with a dinner and a drink and thinking that this was way better than TV. And that was really the start. It started at Joe and Margaret's house because we were eating supermarket pork, and we both looked at each other and said, God, we could do better than this. I had never done better than that. And Joe had some pig experience. So that was how it started. And it also started because I had been ill, and I wanted to eat differently. And the whole point for me doing what I did in the beginning was just so that I could feed our household better than what I could get from the grocery store. And that was it. There wasn't any, come on in. There wasn't any plan to expand, except that's sort of how I am. I start getting excited about things and keep going. And then from there, it just grew. You know, we started with some chickens for some eggs, and we started with a few more pigs, and then I snuck a little cow home one day and quietly, and not so quietly, built a little place for him in the barn, thinking my partner wouldn't notice the addition. So that was really how it started. Prior to that, I had off and on, the way a lot of people here in Maine do, I had a job, but I also had like 4 other jobs so I could try to make it a living. And that job often was helping out on somebody else's farm. And I learned a lot from those experiences. There are a few things that happened to me in this journey, and people have asked, you know, would I specifically address what it's like to be a female farmer? And so everything I tell you is because I am a female farmer. That's it. You know, you're looking at a girl. But when I first started, when I was younger, helping out on a farm, I was often ignored at farms, like stores, machinery places, where no one knew me, and I would just stand there and get overlooked. I'm also short, so I would give you a pass because you might not be able to see me behind a counter. But that was hard. That was hard, and you just have to, you know, I just had to kind of like be bold and come out of my shell a little bit and ask for some service. That was a negative thing, but you get past all that, you know, if you really want to do what you want to do. And I just kept learning. I just kept hanging out with, at the time it was all men. I didn't know any women farmers. I just wanted to do this thing, and I had no idea where that drive came from. I just felt compelled to do it. And I was asked in this room before we all gathered what I thought it took to farm, to do this thing. And I would have to say that to do anything well, you have to have a passion for it. If you think that you just want to do something because you're going to get rich, please don't go into farming. Because a good friend of mine said that, in order to make $1 million, you have to spend $2 million. And that is true. That's true. You really have to do it for yourself. There has to be some reward inside here if you want to be successful at it. And being successful doesn't mean that you have to take a big basket of luscious, potatoes and tomatoes and fruits into a store for sale. Being successful means that you're eating well, you're eating healthily, you have some sort of appreciation for what you're doing. The success is here. It has to be here because there's not a lot out there all the time to make you, feel, you're not a movie star. Unless you have animals, and then you're a movie star every day because they love you. And I wanted to have animals. I've always gardened. I'm a grower, actually. My family first started on a farm, and we were vegetable growers. Left that because we couldn't make any money. But I think that playing in the dirt has always been it's just in my soul, and I've always wanted to do it. I was a landscape contractor for many years. That was how, it's sort of like high-end farming. And that got me to where I can do this. And that is the difficulty. That's the difficulty for getting younger people into this business, is that there's not a good way to get started unless you can come along with somebody else. Land is expensive, particularly in the mid-coast area. Kids coming out of school usually have debt and they can't get started. And I would encourage, if anybody here, and you don't have to be young, I started when I was 40, seriously doing it. You just have to have the passion and the drive and the perseverance to go out every day against a lot of odds, and do your thing. It's like anything. But I believe in having fun. And to that end, I started my little Facebook posts, which are often about fun. I think I really don't know what happened to me, because I never was exposed to a lot of farm animals. As a child, it was just acres and acres and acres of green beans and tomatoes and stuff, and strawberries. And I couldn't wait until I was grown up and I could have some animals. And that happened when I was about 40. 40, I decided I was grown up. I got braces and I got animals. So, and you're looking at Martha in the foreground and Ori. Martha came along with the very first Hereford cows that I purchased. She was their guardian, and if you're going to go and get cows, you might as well get a donkey too. Anyway, she's a wonderful animal and does a really good job. Ori is actually just a lot of fun. He's company for her, but he's very entertaining for me. And you can see that, everybody kind of mingles on my place. There's not too much separation until winter time, when we have to separate everyone. I grow a lot of different things on the farm still. High bush blueberries, grapes, a lot of plants just for myself. And in some years I grow more vegetables than others. This year I have a young woman that came to me and asked if she could grow on the property, and I am thrilled. If any of you ever want to come and grow something or grow with me, come ask, because there's just so much work. And that's something to keep in mind, that if you have to do it on your own or just with one other person, keep the scale, I think there's a desire to, I want to feed the world, but I can't. So if I can just feed the neighborhood, that's great, you know. And when I say I want to feed the world, I don't want to, like, you know, have billions of acres and lots of tractors running back and forth, but my heart wants to feed the world. And so, and that was kind of why I started the store, because I wanted to have more of a year-round venue for folks to come in and eat and not just be dependent on Thursdays at the farmer's market between, you know, 3 hours of time. I wanted people to have more access to farm products so they could just come and go any day, their choice. I'm rather passionate about food. I like to cook. I like to grow. So it gets me in a little bit of trouble because I just keep getting more of these things. But these were some of the original 5. No one was pregnant when I bought them, okay? And Easter Sunday, I went to check on the cows, and there was a calf. Another calf followed a few days later, and I thought I was going to have time, you know, to research this and figure out calving and, you know, prepare myself and talk to people, and no, that didn't happen. I know what I was wearing that day. I had to throw those clothes away because I had come from town and I was wearing a white silk sweater, and I had to help this. So that was it, and that was how I introduced myself to farming. I sort of threw myself in a way that I recommend to all of you not to do. I just learned trial and error a lot of what I do. And I was really lucky because the right people came along to help me. I figured out who to ask questions, and I limped along. And this group of 5 eventually grew to 50. And it was a good experience for me. I don't do that right now, but I did it for many years. This is my place in the wintertime, just I think a month ago. And that's the chicken where I keep my chickens. Right now there's 60 chickens in there. Grapes on the left, high bush blueberries. The land where I actually do have cultivation is very small. It's 4 acres. There's an orchard behind that. And this is a planting area here. There's another planting area to the left. It's very intensely gardened, and it provides a tremendous amount of food, enough food for me to sell in the store, and plenty of food for neighbors. I give food away. You can do it on small scale, intensively garden, and there are a lot of people that can teach you how to do that if you're not sure. I rotate a lot of crops. Things are fast. They're in, they're out. And that requires time, it requires timing, and it requires just a real sense of what you want to do. If I wanted to grow asparagus here, it would be really difficult. You have to kind of know your land, and it would take up a lot of room, so I don't. I grow things that I can move in, move out. Whoops. I have a really nice small herd of Jersey cows. I am passionate about those cows, and it is by accident. I didn't know anything about Jersey cows. I knew nothing about cows, period, when I started. I just felt compelled to have this cow. It doesn't make any sense at all, but I am. And although I raise a tremendous amount of pork, my love of my animals, the first are the cows. When I wanted to learn about cows and how to take care of cows, I had already gotten these 5 Herefords and didn't know squat. So I went along with our bovine vet for several winters to learn about cows. And one of the things I learned was that with the beef cows, you didn't handle them so much. They were out in the fields, they looked pretty. I liked eating them. It was all good. But when I went with him to dairy farms, those farmers were touching their cows. And there was this great relationship with the farmer and the cows often. And I wanted that. I wanted to be able to touch my cows and have it be okay. The beef animals were, they were a little bit more skittish. We move them in for the fall and the winter. We separate out for harvest. They would go out in the spring. You walk around, you say hi, the donkeys guard them. It wasn't the same. When I go into a dairy barn, they're kind of nuzzling you, they're warm, they're fuzzy, they kick. But that's what I wanted. And so I started acquiring, I got one cow, nearly killed me, a Jersey, because I didn't know how to milk her. And that led to a series of farmers coming over to my place to teach me how to milk, all of them nearly getting killed by this cow. So then that cow went away, and I waited. I waited a little while. I waited a year, and then I got another one. And that cow's name was Mona, and she was the best first cow. I forget that I even had the other one. The best first cow that I could have had. She was gentle. She gave a lot of milk. She eventually moved in with a number of cows that I owned to a larger barn and set records for butterfat and milk production in little cross cows. And Mona gave me the courage to keep going. So eventually, we had quite a few Jerseys in another farm. And we have chickens everywhere. You can see that this is really, really diverse. And I'm small. I'm a small farmer. And I sell a tremendous number of eggs. I sell a lot of broilers. I moved 1,000 broilers through my farm in rotation this year. I do a lot of numbers in rotation. So I may grow like 120 hogs, but I don't put 120 hogs on at one time. I put on 20, I put on 30. I rotate them around through the woods. And that way, it makes it so I'm not having to work as hard as some of my friends who have bigger places, because often, I never know if I'm going to have help or not. So I have to structure everything so that I can do it myself if I have to. The chickens, not the layers kind of run all over the place, but the broilers move in little houses, what we should call chicken tractors. And each house may have anywhere from 10 to 20, depending on the size of the tractor, and I move them every day. If I had to do that with 1,000 birds at a time, it would be overwhelming, and I don't have the space for it. But I can do it in 100 or 200 bird increments. And that's something that you might want to think about if you're interested in farming and you want to have more numbers. My numbers are successful only because I've learned to not grow any bigger than I am with what I have. But I learned that the hard way. So I'm just asking you to slow down. Don't do what I did. Everything I tell you, I learned by mistakes. Martha is a rescue, and a lot of my more permanent animals on the farm are rescues. Martha, Martha was purchased along with the cows, the place that she came from didn't treat the animals as well as they should have been treated. So that's also a passion of mine. I like to think that I'm treating my animals as best as I possibly can, to the extent that I'll do without something if the animals need better care or something different or extended care. Martha required a tremendous amount of veterinary care when she came home, and from time to time she still does. That was an eye-opener for me, because I had never experienced being on a farm where I thought that things weren't the way they should be, in my opinion. So that is also a part of my mission, is that if I can't treat or can't handle my animals the way I feel that they deserve to be treated, then I stop my numbers. I don't grow. I may pull back, but always the animals are their care is first and foremost on my place. I believe, because I do eat some meat, I'm not a big meat eater, but I do eat some meat, that the flavor of the meat, the life of the animal, everything is connected like this. And I believe that we need to be responsible in that care. So that's my personal philosophy. I think a lot of farmers feel that way, and every once in a while someone says something to me because, I grow livestock for food, and I think I've taken that, I listen to what people have to say when it's negative, but I just want you to know that a lot of us do care very much so about how we're treating our animals to the end that we're going to be eating them, and I take that very seriously. So when you come to the farm, there are happy pigs. So this is Charlotte, and Charlotte is now taken on celebrity status. She was really a bizarre little piglet. She didn't look right. She ended up kind of going backwards in health. She came in with a whole group of pigs, and I watched her go into decline. But she had enough energy, I couldn't catch her because they were all out in the woods. And finally, I was able to get a hold of her and bring her in. And I really didn't believe she would live, but we gave her powdered sugar donuts. We gave her probiotics and penicillin shots and oatmeal, warm Jersey milk, and prayers. And Charlotte is now pretty good size. I think she's like about 120 pounds, and thinks she's a dog like my dog Sherman, and has this whole personality and a whole following. I find powdered sugar donuts in the barn weekly from fans, and I don't feed her that exclusively. She just gets those as a treat now. But I can get her to do things. Pigs are very smart. And Charlotte, she's going to hang around the farm until, well, for a long time. She's not going to go off to slaughter like most of my other pigs, because she's just part of the family now. And but she's something else. You can get her to come up. I can get her to come up, say, paws up. And she stands up, and sit. When Joe and I had those first pigs, we got one to sit. And I think it was you that said, how far do you want to go with this? But no. So anyway, the thing about raising the livestock and being small is that you have to sometimes think outside the box. I do have a couple tractors that help with a lot of the work, and I encourage people, if you can afford to get a tractor, because it can save you a lot of physical agony. But when the weather is really bad, I often have to toboggan the food to everybody, because if it's too icy or the snow is too deep, it's just faster and sometimes safer to just walk with a toboggan of food. And I think that, I was talking to a friend of mine who is also a farmer and in an even bigger farm, and we don't really make any money, so we often have another job. And so you'll see, like, farmers are school bus drivers, because you can work in the middle of the day, because on the shoulder ends are your chores, and anything can happen. So if we get like a dump of snow like this, and I have to walk a lot, and I'm walking into the woods for the pigs, that might set my schedule back by an hour or two. So that means I'm going to be late to work. That means that I have to call a friend because I want to do this to do my chores. I mean, you have to, there's a lot that you give up when you do this, and because you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's the other thing, is that this is not regular. This is not an office. This is life that's happening right all the time. You know, it's like, do I open that barn door knowing I have to get into Rockland because Millie might be loose? And will it hurt if Millie's loose? Yeah. So you have to open the barn door and take a look, and that might mean you might be late, or you might not make it at all. You know, I have very understanding friends and doctors and appointments that I just say, look, you know, piglets were due in 2 days, but they're squirting out now, so I can't come. And that's just how it is. If you want more regularity, just grow vegetables. Okay. If you want a little bit of a livelier life, have some livestock, because they'll keep you going. You know, I mean, if Martha decides, if I'm moving her in and out, and she decides she doesn't want to go, then I'm stuck in the road for 45 minutes hanging on to Martha, begging her, please move, I've got to go to work. And then I have to make a call to a neighbor and ask if they'll come behind and help me get her in. Anything can happen. This is just one of my cows out on, I have a lot of cows right now on another dairy farm in Union, and this is one of them. The Holstein is not mine. I don't own any Holsteins. I like the Jerseys, they're smaller. I'm small. I've worked with Holsteins for years, and they're very nice cows, no prejudice. But I can move a Holstein with my body. A Jersey with my body if I have to, and I can't necessarily do that with a Holstein. You have to take in your size. Like Peter milked cows, and I'm guessing you might have milked Holsteins. All the time, right. Stand up. So, size matters in this for me particularly, as I'm a little challenged. Charlotte has a boyfriend. That's him. Yes, Charlotte is a pig, and this is a chicken. I've created this story. Some antics have been going on in my barn that have never occurred before. Either that, or I'm just more perceptive. This guy here got kicked out of the chicken house, and he became completely enamored of Charlotte, so that he would lay down next to her and offer her little bits and treats in her pen, until the weather got nice, and then he started taking up with her. So we've got a few things going on at the farm. Mo, this is the other thing, is that your car becomes your truck, and we had a little chase going on a few months ago where this calf named Atalanta decided to leave the farm at a day old and go for a little romp, maybe 5 miles, through woods, up hills, down roads, over ditches, and eventually found her way back to the farm. Mo, how many people were looking for her? Like 13? Yeah, we were exhausted, we were dirty, we were wet, our clothes got all ripped up, and finally dark was coming, and I figured the coyotes would get her. But Mo and my friend Heather stayed behind. I had to go and bring my cows in from home, and she appeared. She's now safe, she's healthy, she's this big, and she's in my barn. But you have to be ready to sacrifice a few things, and cow poop in your Subaru, it becomes a normal thing. You're laughing. It's better than when they pee. Yeah. This is, for me, like this photograph, which was taken at my neighbors, the Getchels. These cows, they're they're like an extension of my soul. And I don't know why. I can't tell you why about these things. But if I didn't have them, I would be wealthier, but I would be poorer too, because I need them. I don't know why, but when I go out there with them and I can touch them and I can talk to you about them, something different happens for me. And it didn't happen as a grower, and it didn't happen, it doesn't happen behind a camera, but it happens with them. And I think that the thing that the magic for me, and it can happen, some people do it with sheep or goats, is that I made this connection that has taken me out of myself. And it takes me, well, this is going to sound kind of odd, but it takes me closer to God. For me, this is my church when I'm out there with them. I become more grounded. I'm a little bit high-strung woman. I'm like moving all the time. I can't get enough of anything. I like to learn. I want to have my hands on everything. When I go out with them, I'm here. And I don't know why. And I don't know if I need to tell you why or figure it out, but that's what it is for me. That feeling that I have when I'm standing on the ground and I feel that energy from them that completely and absolutely calms me down, that's what I want to bring to you. And it took me a long time to be able to get that out, to verbalize that. But that's what my little farm does for me. It keeps me centered, it keeps me on the ground, and I think that I'm a better person and a better producer of food because of them. And it makes no sense, but it's that they drive me. They drive me. If I didn't have them to get up every day and go outside in the rain, in the snow, in the sleet, falling down, muddy, dirty, and sometimes crying, I don't know what my life would be. I don't know where that meaning would be. They're my religion. So I told my friend Ray recently, because she was helping me at the farm, and I said, oh my God, I would be so much better off if I didn't have them. And she said, well then, who would you be? And saying that to me allowed me to say that to you, because they are who I am in a very odd way. I love pigs. I didn't think I would love pigs. But this pig that Joe and I got, I became fascinated with them. They are by far the most utilized animal in terms of food, meat production. You can use almost every part of the pig. But they're fun for me. They have enabled me to down the woods at my place and grow more crops. I use them to till. I've loaned them out to neighbors to till, turf roots, old pasture roots. They'll completely break it down in a season and allow neighbors of mine to start growing a garden without having to bring in machinery. They completely cut down undergrowth, allowing us to move in and cut down firewood trees after them. When that was done, we brought in the cattle. We yarded the cattle a few years in a row, moving the round bales out, moving round bales out, moving round bales out. This is before you read about it in books. And the hay would go down, the cows would poop, grass would be seeded, And it's very savanna-like in these sections now. We have tree canopy, but then we have really high grasses. We can move the cattle back in to graze, pull them back out, bring the pigs back in, turn it again. And now we're at a point where the pigs are pulling the stumps up. So it's a slow process. This is not industrial farming. This is farming without a lot of money. And it's very satisfying. I bring out enough firewood for my house, and sometimes, I sell a little bit to neighbors. That's enough for me. I'm happy with that. I don't go beyond what I can comfortably do, and we're all happier that way. These pigs are outside. They have houses, but they're outside. They come and they go. They do whatever they want to do, and they're happy. And I love it. I can walk through sections of my property now that we couldn't walk through before. I pull out logs when we need to, and we're fine. There's no cement on my place. Cement's easy. The cement would make my life 1,000 times easier because we could just run a tractor through, clean it up, not have to worry about being outside or inside or whether it was sub-zero or being cold, the water line's freezing. This morning we were watering. We watered the cattle inside the barn. Hose sat out for 20 minutes. 20 minutes. We went down to water the donkeys. Hose was frozen solid. So, we don't have those issues with cement. But I don't think these guys would be happy, and I wouldn't be happy. So everything is small scale, on dirt. And we're just keeping it small. And keeping it small, I'm feeding 60 families. I'm feeding 60 families and not a lot of space. And everybody's comfortable. We don't have disease problems because of rotational practices. And it just works. Maybe we're done. I don't know. So anyway, that's it. You can ask me questions. Martha is 16 now, and Ori is 7. And their lifespan, if they stay healthy, is between 30 and 40 years.
How much discouragement did you get?
Oh my God, because I'm a woman. I would say that, I'd tell you, and I thought long and hard about this. I told Peter this, and a few people know that this happened to me. When I first got into the really loving milking cows, I went to another dairy and learned how to milk cows. I learned a lot from these people. It was a really nice place to learn. About the second year into it, it was a husband and wife, and they're older. And he said, well, maybe you'd like to come in on the farm. And I stayed. And I kept learning and eventually having more and more responsibility on the farm. And I had another job, a full-time job. So after a couple years of that, I went to him. I said, hey, how about it now? How about I can sign on the contract and because I had 20-something jerseys in this barn that we were milking. I did not get paid. I didn't get any money at all. I took some milk and I learned, and that was okay. But at the 4th year, I wanted something more than that. And he looked at me and he said, I can't do that. And he had no heirs. There were no children involved here. And I was like, why? And he said, because there's no future with you. You have no husband, no partner, no children. And I won't have this farm, I won't have you be on this farm as a partner. And that was devastating to me. It's hard even to talk about it right now because it's an emotional reaction that I'm having just telling all of you that. But And I went home like completely and absolutely deflated. I was just beside myself because I had invested so much of my time, and I had lost a lot in some ways, very personal. So I went home and I thought about it, and I went back and I did it for another year because I wasn't 100% done learning, and I thought maybe I could do something else, and maybe I could convince I could work harder or something. And there wasn't any working harder because I'm a really hard worker, and so I just kept at it. Then there was a point at which I was badly injured, and I kept that to myself, and it required a major piece of surgery. And I went back to him and I said, look, I can run this farm, you can go on vacation, you go away for long weekends, I can pull anything, any piece of equipment apart on this place and put it back together again. I can operate on these cows. I can do lots of things that you can't do. Can I come in now? And he said, no. At that point, I sort of lost all reason, and I pulled my cows out like that. I was very angry, and I left. That was probably the very worst thing that's ever happened to me, but I've kept it up. You know, I had to regroup. I had to think about what I was doing. I sold most of my cows. I started over, and I thought about, okay, how can I do this? And this time I'm doing it just for me. Instead of selling to Cabot, which is what we were doing, and instead of, you know, these ideas that I have for different things, I just said, okay, what do I need to do for me? Well, I know I have to hang on to the cows because for some reason they're an extension of my soul. But now the farm is different. So the farm is for me. You know.
Do you think that man would have treated a man the same way?
He was really hard. We had, there was a man before me who wanted the same thing. And he ended up moving to Pennsylvania, where he is actually farming in Pennsylvania.
So what happened to that farm?
That farm still is farming. I don't know how much longer they can farm. They're older, and they don't have a lot of family.
And they don't have heirs. They
No.
don't have someone to pass
No.
it on to.
No,
Like
no,
it could happen.
no, no. And this is a problem in the dairy industry here. I don't know about anywhere else. I can only speak for here. I have worked on 3 different farms. I've worked for 3 different farmers. All of them badly need to pass that farm on or make house lots. And I can't get anywhere. And I've decided that enough's enough now. But I don't know what that is. You know, I've talked to some other young farmers who are in the same position on other dairy farms, and they're like, I talked to somebody this afternoon before I left for home, who he was like, I don't know what to do. I've been there 3 years. They won't, you know, they want to transition, but they don't know how to transition the farm. It's very difficult to stop doing that. These guys, all they've got are cows. And they don't want to stop because if they stop, they think they're going to die. And they say, that has been said to me. But they're going to die, you know, and there's no one there coming because they're kind of in the way of it. I don't know how you bridge that. I don't know how that changes. Oh.
So what would have happened, do you think, had it worked? Would it have worked out?
Well, if he had allowed it, I think he would have been a different person. You know, I don't.
But for
Yeah.
you, did you want to run the dairy farm?
Yeah, I did. I really did. I wanted that. Well, what I really want what I really want to see is for somebody that can come along and take you, and you that want to do it and bring them in so that we don't lose our skills, so that we don't lose our farms. We're losing them. We lost 2 last week. We lost one major one 2 weeks before that. So, it's okay for, if you're milking, my ideal for me now, when I think about it, and I think about it all the time, is to milk 10 to 15 cows and provide milk for my store and for my community. And I would be very happy doing that. But that would take us back to the 50s when, like even in Union and Appleton, as you know, dairies were bottling their own milk for the community around. That's a great thing, but we're so in this mode of wanting to go to the store and just grab whatever we want, whenever we want, that, to time it around the milking schedule or when the truck is coming and like we do, I don't see that people are 100% on board with that. So,
Cheryl, how do you manage to run a farm and a store in such a complicated economic situation now?
Yeah, that is good. That's a good question. It's taking. It's like a juggling act, and I couldn't do what I do without the help. There are people here that help me. There are people here that step up and help me. In order for me just to be here, Ray came to my farm, did her farm chores. She has a farm. Did her farm chores early. Came to my farm, did my chores, so I could take a shower, change my clothes, and get here. People have come. People have come just out of the woodwork, come and help. There are a lot of people want the farm to succeed and want the store to succeed, and to that end, people have stepped up and come and help. And that's the only way I get by. It's difficult. It's very difficult.
Well, what made you decide to open the store?
Okay. I wanted to open the store because I was in farmers markets for about 10 years, and every year I made money 2 days of the year. Because the farmers markets I had a woman that would come and represent me at the market so that I could work my job to pay her to be at the market. And you're laughing, but almost all of us small farmers do this. It's very complicated. What I do because I love. I don't do it for the money. But I want to make money, and I want people to be able to have access to good food all the time. It is a unreasonable force within me. So I opened the store so that people could come and get good food whenever they wanted, also hoping that I could maybe make a living beyond the 6 very intense weeks that summer people are here. Because I think that the community as a whole would like to eat well, and I think that there is a passion for good food here that is more than just 6 weeks in the summertime. And I have got everything on the line to do that, and I believe in it. So.
Cheryl, can you say something about the way you're engaging with the young people in the community who don't have homes?
Okay. This is something I kind of do quietly, but when I wanted to go into that storefront on South Main Street, people told me about all the trouble I was going to have. And I can't imagine any more trouble than chasing cows through the woods with, So And I didn't know what that trouble would be. I don't have any trouble in my store, but what I see is poverty. And there are a lot of kids on the street that don't have any place to go and are hungry. And you can see that in their way they act. You can see that in their eyes. And if you're paying attention, you can feel it. And it is just makes me crazy that in this country, in this area of such wealth, that there are kids walking the streets hungry. And I feed them. They come to the back door, they come to sometimes to the front door, they meet me at my car now, and I feed them because it's the right thing to do. In the fall, I ran like a benefit, and a lot of people came, some of you came to that, and we raised some money for those kids, specifically for food. I don't know where they go at night. I'm not even there at night. I can't even close my own store because I have to go to Appleton to take care of my animals. But while they're there, while they're here, and while I see them and they're in my life, I'm going to try to take care of them. And I'm trying to get other people to help me take care of them because it's a lot of kids for one woman to take care of. And but they're great, and I don't have any problems. The problem I have is that it's unbearable to me to watch them, you know, to give them something and have them go, and they're ashamed to come. They take days before they come back, and they're welcome to come back anytime. So that's what I do. Yeah.
The jar by the cash register.
Mm-hmm.
That you put out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty active jar, isn't it?
Yeah, we have a jar. It's a cookie jar, and next to the cash register at the store. And I encourage people to make donations to the homeless teen, to kids. I don't even know if these folks have an office, but there are a group of people that try to help take care of these kids. And once I realized what the situation was down on South Main Street, Xanda helped me find a contact person, and so I collect money for these kids to eat. And it's in a cookie jar, and I've been amazed at the amount of money that we're getting every month. You know, I call, and it could be changed. Like last month, we had. Jack sent me an email, so I know. We raise about $100 easily a month without even asking, directly. Sometimes we say, put your coffee money in that jar. And then people see the sign, and instead of putting like $1.50 in the jar, they'll put $5 or $10 or $20 in the jar. And that's what's great. But it could be like, $86 in mixed change. And we're like, thank God for those little change counters at the bank. Yeah, I mean, people are really responsive. They know. I think it's awareness. It's awareness. Yeah.
I have a question. I'm fairly new to the area, so where are these children coming from that they don't have homes? I mean, how did they end up into this situation?
You want to tell? Do you know? I can tell you that some of these kids come from what we would consider good homes, but for one reason or another, there's conflict, there's drug use, some of them come from poor families, and there's no place for them. There's too many kids to feed. Some of them have run away and end up here for one reason or another. I've got a group of 3 or 4 boys, and that number changes, but 3 of those kids are always together, and they hang tight. They're from different areas. They somehow found each other. I've talked to them, so I know. Like this morning, one came in, and he was like, I'm so tired of trying to find a job. You know, I'm just so, he's trying to find a job, and we're just trying to, have you tried here? Have you tried there? Give him coffee and something to eat, and he goes back out again. I don't know where they all come from. What I want to know is, where are they all going? What happens when it's minus 20? Where are they? I think it's hard enough as an adult being homeless, but as a child, there are a lot of other issues. And yes. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. I noticed you don't have a chimney on your chicken house, and I was just wondering how they stay warm. And also, I was wondering why you need to move them around so much.
Okay, so it's two different kinds of chickens, and I do not have a chimney on the chicken house. The chicken house is really well insulated. There are a lot of chickens in that chicken house. It does get cold, and in the first year when we just had like a few 25 chickens in there, we did run electric heat, which was kind of dangerous, so we stopped doing that. They huddle together. They're pretty warm. If it's extremely cold, I would do something. Sometimes I bank the chicken house so draft doesn't come up. But floor, ceiling, roof, everything in that house is insulated. And they are doing well. There's a little bit of frostbite on the combs. The eggs crack open and break in freezing weather, but they're okay. And then the reason I move the others around is that they're broilers, and they're on the farm only for 6 to 8 weeks. It's a very short-term lifespan on a broiler. So I move them to put them on fresh grass so that they're not in their own manure for too long. They like to graze on the grass. I find that they're healthier. I have less mortalities doing that. If I left them, I've done a lot of different things with the broilers. At one point, I actually built an addition onto my run-in for broilers to hold 200 at a time. And with a big flyway out, I went overboard. Did the whole thing. And of the 200 first experimental broilers, 10 left the building. And then they sat there. And then it was dark. And then I'd have to go down and pick each one up and put it back in the house. And that didn't work. So this way, I move them around, and I'm happier, they're happier. Yeah. They don't get a lot of credit for brains. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Great, thank you. Thank you.